No prep or nothing on it.
What is going on, guys? So here we go.
Technology,
Hey,
hooray!
this is Tim,
This is Jonathan.
and let's try this again. All right. I think we got technology working. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Average Reviews, the podcast where we break down movies using our unique scoring system and figure out not if something is good or bad, but why it lands where it does.
And tonight we're kicking open a hole in the backyard and crawling down into 1987's The Gate, a film that proves all you really need for a nightmare is a little heavy metal, a dead dog, and some demonic geodes.
And it's honestly wild how this movie still holds up. For a PG-13 film in the late 80s, marketed to kids, The Gate doesn't pull punches. You've got stop-motion demons, nightmare hallucinations, and some seriously bleak imagery, all wrapped into that suburban Spielbergian glow, but with a lot more Satan.
Fun fact, this was Steven Dorff's very first movie, and he was only 12 years old. The film was directed by Tibor
Takas is what
yeah. Thank you. A name that might not jump out at you immediately, but he's responsible for several cult favorites over the years. And another fun fact, I was 5 years old when this movie came out. Oh my God.
You were at the perfect age to experience this.
Absolutely.
And the effects in this movie, this was before CGI really took hold. So everything was done with practical tricks, a little bit of overlay, forced perspective, stop motion. Honestly, it's one of those, how the hell did they do that kind of movies, especially when those little demons start swarming.
This movie is also a great example of horror through a child's perspective, where imagination, fear, and reality blend into one. It's like the Goonies took a wrong turn and ended up in a satanic nightmare.
And speaking of nightmares and imagination run amok, my upcoming novel, Like, Comment, and Survive, is dropping this July. Here's my early copy. The cover has changed. I'm going through making those edits to it now.
Nice.
But it's a found footage horror story that takes online fame, mixes it with the kind of terror you can't just click away from. If you like horror with heart, some blood, and broken live streams, you're going to love it.
So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. But right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, welcome. You're a part of the show. You can score The Gate with us live even. Head over to our Instagram at the Average Reviews Podcast to grab a scorecard and drop your ratings in the chat or comments.
Your scores help us build a better average, and that's what this is all about. Looking past just thumbs up, thumbs down, and digging into what makes movies memorable, frustrating, scary, or straight up awesome.
So grab your shovel, avoid opening mysterious holes in your backyard, and let's see if The Gate is a cult classic for a reason, or if it should stay sealed forever.
All right. You, I believe, are the one who brought this movie to my attention when we were putting our list together. I had not seen it yet. So
yeah, dude.
This was a first view.
Good. That's awesome. For me, I haven't seen this movie in forever. It's so damn long. So getting to watch it again and just like refresh my brain was like, wow. I totally forgot how good this movie was, at least to me anyway. So I'm excited that we're doing this one.
Yeah, I'm glad you said you kind of forgot how good this was, because one of the things I wanted to hear was if it was as good as you remember, because I was very happy with my first viewing of this. I was very surprised. It's one of those movies that it shows up on my to be recommended list all the time. It's one of those that, why have I not gotten to it? I'll be honest, because it's always PG-13. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, most PG-13 scares, some of them are good movies. Some of them are cringy. Hot take, the Insidious franchise is almost unbearable. It's so hard to watch sometimes.
Oh wow.
And that's PG-13 horror. And I know that's a hot take. A lot of people love that franchise, but it's one of the reasons I avoid PG-13. I shouldn't have slept on this movie. I think this movie takes, like we said in the intro, it's got that like Spielbergian suburban setting, the kids, parents, nice summer morning. We have a little bit of a nightmare at the beginning, but I was surprised by this movie. Do you want to break down the story in a little bit more detail?
Sure. So yeah, you got your main characters, Glenn, the little brother, and his older sister, Al, or Alexandra, as she likes to be called now. It's kind of like she's mid-teens, getting close to turning 16. He looks like he's maybe like 8, but you can tell they've got that really good brother-sister relationship. But it's starting to kind of fall apart because she's getting more into her teenage stuff with her friends, kind of leaving him behind. So there's a little bit of emotions with, growing out of the sibling kind of relationship they got. And then parents are gone for a weekend. Stuff gets crazy. The trees.
Classic setup. Parents gone for the weekend.
It's just them unsupervised with no parents. It's like, okay, what is really going to go down? And then you've got Glenn's weird little friend, Terry, whose mom had passed away, years before. So he's like in his weird kid stage of being like weird and messing up and doing weird shit, kind of maybe on that verge of being cruel to animals, like you see with the moths without the holes in the jar for air. So you kind of like a little concerned about Terry, like, bro, back it up, Terry, back it up.
Terry checks a lot of the psychopath boxes for suburban house moms in the late 80s and early 90s who are like, that kid's gonna be he's gonna be trouble. Like, he checks a lot of those boxes
for sure. But with their weirdness and that thing, their friendship between Glenn and Terry, and like this hole in the backyard after a tree gets blown down in the storm and everything, and then like these geodes that get broken open, apparently releasing demonic forces, and them unknowingly doing some kind of ritual with blood and sacrifice and all these things that they're not, aware that they're doing. Apparently, once you get a little further into the story, but just the craziness of it is pretty awesome. And for a PG-13 film, and keep in mind, just for reference, if you see an 80s film and it says PG-13 and it's got some scary stuff to it, suppose it's supposed to be like a kind of scary movie of some way, don't let the PG-13 rating fool you, because a lot of movies in the 80s, even though they're PG-13, had some kind of crazy twisted stuff. The 80s was kind of a unique time in film, in its own way. So story-wise, though, them overcoming these challenges, fighting off demons, and all their weird little kind of like multiple facets of how they express themselves through the house and dreams and everything else, and them still coming out on top. And Glenn kind of getting closure with, accepting that him and his sister are still gonna be friends, even though she's growing up. It all works out well, and it's a cool story. You don't really get much that I'm aware of these kind of stories, where it's so confined to just like the one small location, just a couple siblings, and then all the other stuff. I don't know. Well, maybe there's other comparisons out there I'm not thinking of right now, but I don't know. I thought it was pretty unique kind of story in its own way. So yeah.
I think it is unique, and I always love, like you said, the PG-13 rating. It came about in 1984 as a response to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and movies like Gremlins, which is appropriate to compare to this. We get small little demonic creatures here and teenagers dealing with something out of their control. It's very different film. So like you were saying, as far as original goes, this takes those little demonic creatures and totally avoids the Gremlins comparison. It, fascinatingly enough, the original script for this film was more like Gremlins. They were not intentionally. It was more, they open up that pit trying to dig to China. That's how it was originally written. They open up the hole in the backyard and they unleash the demons on the town. The original script was much darker and multiple deaths and violent deaths. And the final demon monster was going to be made of entrails. So it was a much darker. I don't want to say darker. This movie's dark. It was much more R-rated, a little bit more violent.
I want to see that version.
I know. I want to see. I want both of them to exist, but it kind of had that Gremlins-esque of like Gremlins took over the town where these guys were going to take over the town, and that was changed later in the draft. So this avoids that Gremlin comparison really well, and I like that. I'm glad it does. It also, I mean, it has that basic setup of here are the kids, parents are going away, don't throw any parties, and then the very next shot is a party. You know, they get into all kinds of trouble while parents are gone. But this takes hard left turn into the kind of trouble that they bring on. And I was surprised by it. I was fascinated by it. So I gave the story and the plot on this a 4. I thought it's really original, especially in the realm of, which we don't have enough of these, children's horror movies. As far as children's horror movies go, this is unlike any I have ever seen. It's not the Goosebumps movie with Jack Black. It's not Gremlins. It is a 100% serious horror movie for kids. And that is, I'm sure others out there exist, but my knowledge of them is minimal. So I appreciate that. I'm a 4 on it.
Hell yeah, man. I love hearing that. I'm a 4 as well. So, yay.
Awesome. So the characters, okay, the buddy's name, what's his name?
Terry.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because I've been on a true crime kick lately, watching a lot of true crime, and there's always like, he was fascinated by heavy metal and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, okay. So are a bunch of normal people, but he fits to the T the kid you should be worried about, according to suburban housewives in the early 90s, about he listens to that satanic metal, he dresses in all black, his mom died, so you know, like, he fits it to a T, but he's such a lovable little guy who is mostly harmless, and I love that about this movie. I actually really like Al and Glenn's relationship.
Yeah.
It is very much it's an accurate representation of siblings. They love each other, but they get on each other's nerves. There are times in this film where both of them are annoyed with the other one and they have a fight, but they're also got each other's back throughout this film. But I think one of the more interesting things this movie does, and I guess I'm lumping this with character because it's how we view the movie. It shows this horror through child's eyes. And I love that because it makes it very, like, the loneliness of childhood is represented well in this. He starts with his friend, mom and dad, his dog, and his sister. And one by one, each of these things disappears until he is alone. And that's just like putting yourself in, I don't know, you said 8. I thought he was more like 10, but I mean, that's maybe still same age range.
He seems so small. I just kind of
estimated him. He does. But as a 10-year-old, there is that kind of fear about watching the people you count on and the people you rely on disappearing and being left truly alone. And that plays out really well in this. And I love the scene towards the end where he's alone and he just kind of lays on the floor and cries. Like, that pulled at my heartstrings because this little boy is alone and he kind of caused it all. So I think that character arc, just simple it like that's his treehouse. He doesn't want it to go away at the beginning. He finds the geode and unleashes all of this madness that leaves him alone. And that is a pretty sad story, and it's a sad arc. And yes, this movie has a happy ending, and that's one of the things I like about it. I mean, the dog comes back, so I'm happy about that. But
The dog lives.
the dog lives. I don't care about mom and dad. But yeah, I was super impressed by that arc. I was also, there are smaller arcs in this film with the friend who I keep, Terry, who early on in the film, Glenn asks if, Terry, did you ever want any siblings? And Terry's like, no, I never thought about it, blah, 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 blah. And then towards the end, you hear Terry say, you know, a sister might be nice. And then Glenn also tells Al that she's better than whoever they were going to have. Like, there's growth in that, in their relationships and their dynamics together. And I love that for this movie.
Heck yeah. Man, good breakdown on that. Yeah. Terry definitely kind of seems to get a little sense of reformation towards the end, because I think, with everything he experiences, he's like, I need to stay away from maybe some of this so-called metal-y devil music and weird, obscure cultist stuff. Maybe that's not good for a kid like me, you know? But yeah, their friendship still remains strong all through the weirdness with him and Glenn. And it looks like, according to Wiki, Glenn's actually 12, so way off.
He's just short. Steven Dorff
yeah, he's a very small 12. Okay.
He was a little. He was a little guy.
The sister Al, it was cool how it seemed like she was just going to be like the rebel and do her own thing, but actually came back and did the right thing.
Yes,
and even tried to make amends with her brother. Showing that loving side and that they cared. And from the way it's set up, you can tell they're good kids. Their parents tried to raise them well, and it seems like they're doing a good job of that. So, she backed him up. They're fighting everything off, as they go through all the nuts, still being able to love one another. And Glenn kind of like that whole sense, like when he's trying to figure out how to defeat the demons, and he finds the rocket and he's got the note and he's like, oh, light and love, I shouldn't be so messed up my emotions about her going off with her friends. I should still just love her because she's my sister.
Mm-hmm.
That's some good mature growth for a 12-year-old, But although I would say when he wanted to try and call the parents after Angus died, their dog, I was kind of hoping that he would be like, you're doing the wrong thing by like ignoring this, not telling them, and calling them, let them know what's going on, and then running off like this, right? I was hoping he would guilt trip her, but unfortunately not. He decides not to do that, which is good for him. That's good for him.
I definitely got like that exchange specifically. I was like, this is very realistic. The scared little brother, I want to call mom and dad, and the person left in charge in real life or in this movie being like, no, you're fine. I have friends over. Just go sleep it off. Just go lay down. I was like, this is a very realistic conversation that I feel like I've probably had with my younger siblings. So it was a very relatable scene.
Yeah, I've got a little sister and an older brother, so been there, done that with the sibling fights. As far as the characters go, though, the friends, there's no growth in them. They're just like, okay, this is whack. I'm out of here. I don't want to be a part of this. Even after those two girls get the shit scared out of them so hard with the weird stuff in the house. And that one guy, I don't remember his name, but the one that Al was, I guess, trying to get with.
The boyfriend, kind of, that keeps showing up, kind of a turd.
Yeah, I thought that guy was a jackass. And then, like, bringing back the dead dog and then just dumping it down the hole and not telling anybody. It's like, man, what a real shitbag thing to do, man. Like, and he was such kind of a dick anyway. But although I will say, I thought it was really funny. And keep in mind, this is in the 80s when Glenn is leaving the kitchen and calls the dude a
yeah.
I was like, no way.
That happens a couple times in this film, and I was like, man, times have changed.
I don't remember that as a kid, so like seeing it now, it's like, oh wow, he just called him an FAG, like straight up, like, oh, yeah. And he wasn't asking for no cigarette. Like, okay.
Yeah, wow. I definitely
he was like, what?
So I'm actually a 4 on character here. I think they nailed it on character. I was real close to a 5, but
I thought it was great, but I still felt like it was a 3 for me.
Okay. So the music and sound design, this one's a little bit challenging in that the music is good. This is another one of those films where like I don't have to compare it to dark fantasy films for children in the 80s. I don't have the never ending story theme. Okay.
No.
I don't have that iconic kind of sound from this movie. The sound design is good. The music is good. It fits the scenes. There's nothing stand out. I do like the addition of some, they're not licensed tracks. It looks like one guy recorded all of the music that is sounds licensed. It sounds like something that might be on the radio, but it was written for this movie. At least from
Gotcha.
what I could find, because it all had the same writer. So I thought that was pretty cool because there's at one point during the party, there's a song playing. I actually went online to try to find, I was like, okay, where is this song from? And I could be wrong, but it looks like Vince Carlucci wrote a lot of those songs that you hear during the party scene or that's playing on the radio. So, and I don't know if Vince Carlucci was from a band or not, but he has a couple other titles to his name. But those songs I thought really helped elevate it because even though they might not have paid for licensing, it felt like they did. It felt like it had a slightly bigger budget because of that. Like I was watching something uh, a little bit more Breakfast Clubby, I guess, a little bit higher quality. So that was a nice little element to it that I thought just nudged it up a little bit more for me.
See, you got way more out of it than I did, man. Like I didn't really put any kind of focus into the music. The sound design, yeah, the sound design is definitely there in throughout everything, but the music just kind of blended. It was just there for me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really much to think about on it. It just kind of accented things where it needed to for a sense of tension and relief. But other than that, when it came to the sound design itself, though, the sounds of the demons and the creatures and everything, the way they set that up was pretty cool. Um, and then like him trying, like Terry trying to play the record backwards.
Oh, the backmasking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of cool. Just as guys like nobody really talks about that kind of stuff anymore.
No, I thought that was a great element, actually.
So that's all I can really say about it, man. It was just kind of like middle ground for me at a 3.
Yep, I'm a 3. I'm a 3 on it too. This though, our next category, man, we are moving through this movie, and that's all right. Our next category, editing and special effects, is one of the highlights of this film. Yep, I really enjoyed the character dynamics of this film as well. But this movie, before it was on our list, I had heard about this movie because of the special effects. This scene where the guy from the wall collapses to the floor and turns into little tiny demons, I've seen that mentioned many times before in just great practical effects
Oh,
shots.
dude, it was amazing the way they worked that one. Like practically seamless in the transition from the body falling to your little stop motion figures, and then like just oh man, that just worked out really well. I was really glad. Like I was super impressed with how they did that.
Yeah, it's super cool. So if you haven't seen this movie, the little demons that come out are like 10 to 12 inches tall. They're not real big. But
No,
each of those demons was actually a man in a suit that they filmed using forced perspective. They built giant
oh,
sets, had them, forced perspective. The little guys were really far away, the people were closer to the camera. The sets were built way larger around those little demon guys. They were also shot at different frame rates so that it looked like they were moving weirdly.
ah,
Yes. So there's all kinds of tricks. There's some scenes where like the background's cut out and they're laid on top, but there's very little of that. A lot of it is forced perspective because there are some shots in this movie that the first watch through before I looked into the special effects, I was like, how did they do that? it looks so legit. And I was like, there's no way these are puppets. They're moving way too fluidly. So the forced perspective shots are amazing. There's also the stop motion with the giant and puppetry with the giant demon that comes in. And
Yo.
that also looks fantastic, from patting the kid on the head, literally picking him up and flinging him around the room at one point.
Dude, it's a short cut on that. It's like maybe a second, but the figure, like, it looked really good as far as it looking like Glenn that's being thrown.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, damn, okay.
Yeah. It is fantastic. And this movie's just full of that. Even to those smaller things, like the exterior shot of the house is real, but the yard is not. So where they're digging in that tree, that was not in the same spot. So it was just a lot of that actually could probably fall on it. Well, editing and special effects is the same thing. So like just the way they edited it all together to make it fit. There's also taking from the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and it's probably been done in other films, where the wall is made of cloth and we see the movement behind the wall.
Yeah, I love that part.
So it's such a simple effect, and it's so effective. It looks so good every time. Yeah, I love this movie. I think this movie looks as good today as it did in 1987. And it's because those effects are done practically and they're done well. I venture to say that this movie is probably 5 years after Howard the Duck. And yes, progress, but also budget. Budget was like under 2 million for this film, and the stop motion creature at the end of this film looks better than Howard the Duck stop motion creature.
Yeah.
By quite a bit. So it's fantastic.
I really like the part where Glenn is coming out the front door, and he sees both his parents, and everyone else is behind him watching, and his dad picks him up and then starts choking him. But then Glenn puts his hands in his eyes, and the face starts dissolving, and stuff starts coming out, and then it starts to slough off, and then the head eventually all comes off and goes splat on the ground, and it's like, oh, it's so gross. Like, what is that, man? Super gnarly. Or like when the little demon's arm gets caught in the door, comes off, and as soon as it hits the ground, splash, turns into like weird little white semen demons that just kind of trail off under the door or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's an accurate description. Yeah. That's exactly what they look like. The parent scene is gross, and that's one of the scenes that I'm watching. I'm like, that's the difference between an R-rated film and a PG-13 one, is that it just looked like pus pouring out, just white gunk, whereas an R-rated film would have been a little bit more bloody and violent. But it also reminded me of a PG film from earlier. How am I forgetting? Yeah, total blank. It's one of my favorites. Tobe Hooper film, set in suburbia. Very, very relatable to this one. They're Coming, the little girl on the TV.
Oh, Poltergeist.
Poltergeist. I knew it started with a P. Yeah, but when the guy goes into the bathroom and starts peeling his own face off in the mirror, that in a PG film, but that scene with the dad reminded me of that kind of just one of those scenes that kind of pushes the limit of its rating a little bit. Now that I spaced on Poltergeist, I look like an idiot. Go ahead and unfollow now.
How dare he not remember that? God.
Yeah. Well, I'm a 5 on the editing and special effects for this film. It's fantastic.
I thought it was pretty great, but I still was with a 4.
All right. Okay. Moving right along, the script for this one.
I like the script on this one. I thought the way they set up the dialogue was done well. It was believable and realistic as far as like the kind of conversations that you think siblings would have, the kind of fight they would have, conversations with parents, you know, and even like kind of the weird way that friends can be as far as Glen and Terry is. I think that it all was just done well. It's good writing for the characters.
Oh, I agree. Like I said about that exchange between Al and Glenn, it very much sounds like the way brothers and sisters engage with each other. It sounds like realistic back and forth between the two of them. So I think they nailed that. There's no like super cringy lines. I love putting in. So apparently it was Takas who had the whole heavy metal idea, the Satanic Panic influence on this film. I love Satanic Panic stuff because I think it's so fascinating. It's it's so interesting to see all that stuff. Um, because most of it's bogus. But the backmasking, the liner notes telling you how to summon a demon, I'm like, this is amazing. And it was Takas who had that idea. The original script had them like going to a library and finding it in a book. But I love that idea of like this heavy metal band just told everybody how to summon a demon in their album, and then they disappeared mysteriously.
Oh
Like,
no, they died in a plane crash
oh yeah, yeah.
after they
I
recorded the album.
love I love all of that because it is very much, like I said, we're seeing this from a child's point of view. And that is very much like that 12-year-old sitting there, like, dude, I just got this album. And apparently, if you play it backwards, like, we can totally summon demons. Like, I'm there. I'm like, from a kid's perspective, they're buying into this. They love it.
Oh,
It's,
dude, absolutely.
I think,
Like when I was 12, holy cow, dude. Like I was sitting there, like when I was 12 years old, I had Bloodhound Gang's One Fierce Beer Coaster. You know, Adam Sandler, We're All Gonna Laugh at You. Listen to Cheech and Chong's Big Bamboo. Not stuff that's, average for a 12-year-old, So
yeah,
I definitely kind of feel that vibe there for
I had a
sure.
Weird Al, but that.
Well, I had Weird Al too. I had all
that
that stuff.
I was very much not allowed to listen to a lot of stuff, but
Wow.
that element of the script, keeping it very childlike, that childlike enthusiasm with the way they approach a lot of it, I thought was very good. So very natural dialogue between family, very natural. Even the friendships, the girls always picking on the little brother, and the sister like lets it go for a little bit, but then she's like, okay, that's enough. Like we gotta draw the line somewhere. I think the script is great. I give it a 4.
I'm with you right there on that. I'm a 4 as well. Now, there's a few little weird lines in there, like Terry and Glenn. He's like, what was it? We accidentally summoned demons who used to rule the universe to come and take over the world. Yeah, we found out about it from one of Terry's albums. It's like, oh, come on. And then there's this goofy stuff in there.
I love the line, man, the friends are still around. They escape some situation. I'm totally spacing on what it was at the moment. They escape some dangerous situation, and the girl is complaining, and Terry goes, "Can we send her back already?" And I'm like, I thought that was hilarious. I was like,
Oh yeah. Well, I think there was another one aside from that one where like the girl wakes up from being unconscious and she's like, "What's going on?" And then Terry's like, "Somebody knock her out again."
maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Yes, it's so good. It's so natural too. I love that. Well, which leads right into the acting in this movie. A movie that is 95% child
Yeah,
performances.
mostly child actors. Yeah.
Betty's enjoying her toy, isn't she?
You can hear it. Oh yeah, she was chewing on this thing, making a bunch of squeak noises, and I had to take it away from her. Too much
Clanging
noise.
around over there. I love it.
Yeah,
The acting in this film. So this was Stephen Dorff's. Say it correctly. Stephen Dorff's. Oh, I totally forgot the effect of the melting phone. I loved that shot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. But Stephen Dorff, this is his first film.
Mr. Blade Vampire.
Yeah, so known for biggest title on IMDb is Blade. He is in True Detective. So I don't know which season of that because I can't remember off the top of my head. He was in Leatherface. He's done a lot of horror related stuff, but also just a lot of. He's got a good variety under his belt, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But he had done a TV movie before this called In Love and War. He was on Different Strokes for an episode, and the new Leave It to Beaver, which actually on the new Leave It to Beaver, he was with his sister, Krista Denton, who played Owl. So she was also on the new Leave It to Beaver very briefly. She went on, her last acting credit is The Secret of Lost Creek from 1992. So she didn't go on to do much after that. Neither did Terry, who I thought Terry was really good in this film. I'm not going to lie. I thought he was great. It does look like he did a short recently called Sacrifice, but that was a short. Before that, he hadn't been in anything since 1999 when he was in Detroit Rock City as the nerdy kid. But he did come back for The Gate 2, The Trespassers.
Oh, I didn't know there was a sequel.
Yep. So the sequel reunites the writer and the director, but it was not as well received. But I mean, for kids who really didn't go on to do a whole lot outside of our main lead, they did a bang up job. Stephen Dorff did a nice job. I thought the sister was really believable. I thought they all did an excellent job. Anybody I could complain about was probably the parents who just like delivered the lines and moved on.
Yeah, it's just pretty average stuff for most of it. But even like the two friends, the Lee sisters, Linda and Lori, they went on and they've got a pretty good amount of stuff in their catalog. Lori Lee, played by Kelly Rowan, she was in the OC, Hook, Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh, and a whole bunch of other stuff. She's actually got a pretty good catalog going. And then the other sister, played by Jennifer Irwin, was in Superstar with Molly Shannon, the comedy.
Okay.
And a whole slew of other stuff. I think she's got like over 60 different things to her credit. The TV show The Goldbergs, and a whole bunch of other stuff. iZombie.
I kind of love The Goldbergs, not going to lie.
It's an all right show. It's not bad. Some of it's a little goofy. I've not actually watched it regularly, but it's all right.
Oh, I think it's also super goofy, and that's kind of what I love about it. But
she was also in Schitt's Creek and Eastbound and Down. So that's
okay.
Cool.
I cannot stand Eastbound and Down, but my wife all of Schitt's Creek. Yeah, I don't know. There is something about what is his name? Danny Glover? No, Danny McBride.
Yeah, Danny McBride.
There is something about Danny McBride that 90% of the time I can't stand him. The only thing I've actually really liked him in was The Righteous Gemstones, which I think
that show is insanely awesome.
It is insanely hilarious. It is so good. It's my favorite performance of Danny McBride. Most of the other stuff I can't really get into, but
have you watched Principles?
I started
Principles. I think
yeah. But The Righteous Gemstones nails it. The rest of it, I'm Danny McBride, take him and leave him.
Well, he usually plays an asshole in like just about everything that he's in for the most part.
Yeah, and I think that's what I can't stand. I don't know. Maybe now that I'm older, I tried to watch a lot of that stuff like 10 years ago and I wasn't into it. But now that I love Righteous Gemstones, maybe I can go back and give that a shot again. But Righteous Gemstones is just excellent. But yeah, for the acting, I'm a 4.
For me, I'm a 3.
Okay. So the direction on this one is, we've mentioned his name, Takas Tibor. Was that on it? Yeah.
Tibor. Yeah, Tibor. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name.
Tibor Takas.
Failing.
So he's director, writer. He did some of the rewrites on this film, adjustments to the script, like I mentioned. He's still working. His last movie was Black Warrant in 2022. He did Blowback in 2022.
Oh wow, really?
He has a movie coming out called The Inside Job. He's done some TV films as well. Like, surprisingly enough, it looks like he directed a bunch of like Hallmark Christmas movies. It's Christmas Eve, Memories of Christmas, A Christmas Miracle, The Secret Ingredient, and The Christmas Ant. He just went like 2018, 2020, took some Rocky Mountain Christmas. Like, just sure, I'll take a job.
Christmas.
Which, I mean, I can't blame him. I can't blame him.
It's work.
Yep. Actually, his first movie, sorry, I was wrong. His first movie was Metal Messiah, which is where he kind of got that metal influence for a lot of this, and that was from 1978. But he followed The Gate with I, Madman, which is another cult classic horror film. Followed that one up by The Gate 2. Directed some episodes of Tropical Heat, the TV series, in 91. Directed episodes of the Outer Limits TV series.
Nice.
Directed the TV movie Sabrina the Teenage Witch. He directed some episodes of Police Academy, the TV series. Earth Final Conflict, some more Sabrina Goes to Rome. He did that TV movie. He directed the TV series The Crow, Stairway to Heaven.
That's cool.
Yeah. So he's got, I mean, I can just keep going through this list. He directed some great, it looks like Sci-Fi Channel originals in 2006 and 2007. Kraken, Ice Spiders, Mega Snake, New York City, Tornado Terror, like a lot of those. He's prolific. He's out there doing a lot of, you look at his IMDb and it's 2 movies a year, which is pretty impressive.
Steady. He's steady working it. Yeah.
So that's DeBoer. How do you do on this movie? I actually thought for really early in his career, he did a nice job with this movie. It's very grounded approach to such a fantastic idea, this dark fantasy horror film. But he stages the scenes really well. He stages we didn't even mention the scene where Terry sees his dead mother and just how creepy and atmospheric that is and heartbreaking. And then it turns into, he's not hugging his mom, he's hugging the dead dog. So it's just like a double whammy of sad. He does a great job directing this film. He directed the children really well, choosing to do all these, choosing CGI wasn't a big deal then. It was a thing, but not to this extent. But doing all those forced perspective shots is not easy. So the whole approach, he uses a lot of tracking shots too, a lot of great camera work. I was impressed with it. I want to see more of his movies, even some of the sci-fi originals. I'll check it out.
Okay. One scene that kind of bugged me, man, was like towards the end where he shoots the rocket off and Glen's running out of the house and then everything goes kind of kaboom. And you see him get thrown, tumbling head over feet.
Yeah.
Out and so hard and looks like so far out the yard. It looks like he should be like in the street or across the street. But then it cuts to him rolling horizontally instead of head over heels like he was. I'm like, bad lineup. Yeah.
You're right. I got to give you that. Now that I'm thinking about that shot, that's exactly how it looks. So you're 100% correct there.
Yeah, but I did like the part, though, where Terry is down in the hole trying to crawl his way out, and you can see, like, the walls are moving. Like, the dirt walls are kind of moving and everything. And he's, like, the different perspective from Glen and Al on the top, and then him from down inside trying to crawl his way out with the demons trying to grab on him and stuff. I thought it was a pretty cool scene, man, and the way they had that angled. Even though it was kind of weird, though, because it looks like even though Terry grabs onto like the swing that they lower down, it's like it looks like he's trying to push it forward a little bit from the angle of I don't know. It looked kind of weird in that part. It's okay. It's whatever. Yeah.
Well, I'm at a 4 on this mainly because pulling off the special effects the way he does in this film is impressive, and editing it into this, it works for me. So I got to give him a 4 on the direction.
That's cool. I'm sitting at a 3.
Okay. On to the last out of 5 category. So this one was a little bit interesting trying to score this. But the cultural significance and the it factor of this is, well, it's interesting. So I was not born yet. So this is 2 years before me. But I was trying to look up. There it is at the bottom. So it was like under. Okay, so the estimated budget, according in Canadian dollars, was 2,500,000. A couple of the things I saw before were under 2 million, so it's in that range, under three for sure. The film grossed, which is why it got a sequel immediately, grossed 13 million. So it had almost a $10 million profit. It was wildly successful. It debuted at number 2. I want to see what the other movie that weekend was that it debuted behind.
Yeah, I'd be curious. Yeah.
Yeah, but it popped out at number 2. So at the time, it was hugely, hugely perspective. Hugely successful. We have movies nowadays that would love to make $10 million because they're putting so much behind it, they can't make a profit off of them. But that to me, $10 million greenlit sequel immediately, that means it's successful. My issue with it was I never really heard of it. So growing up, I loved the horror world. It was a little bit different for me, limited on what I could watch. But this one somehow missed. I hadn't heard a lot about it until I started watching horror documentaries and really diving into the horror community on Instagram. And that's where I heard it talked about. Not a whole lot of people are like, it's great. You should watch The Gate. Which surprises me. So I had to take that into consideration when I scored this it factor.
That's all right, man. Well, it's not a slasher film, so it's not going to get the same kind of attention and draw that you get for like Friday the 13th, or stuff like that, or Halloween, whatever. There's just not that slaughter factor that draws a lot of people when it comes to horror films. So, it's cool though. It's got its kind of cutesy factor in a little ways, but it is something that, as a PG-13 film, it appealed to the lower end of things where, it was something that parents might let their young teens go see, but it's not something that like a lot of adults necessarily wanted to see, I guess, maybe, even though the box office maybe tells a little different with what it made when it first came out. It doesn't really feel like it has much kind of cultural impact, I don't think. Because like you said, you didn't really hear of it until you read about it in certain circles and you see it in your recommendeds. So it just kind of falls into that category of like almost not as bloody as, but kind of close to like in that category of like Critters or Munchies, kind of low end, or like was it like Troll, weird
less
stuff like
humor, but yeah.
So it kind of sits on the low end there. It doesn't really do much because I don't know many people that know this film. It's kind of rare that with some of the stuff that I watch that people know what I'm talking about. So
yeah,
it's cool. It has its place, but it just kind of feels like it sits at a 3 for me.
So I was able to find. So it was a 3 for me too. It opened behind Ishtar, movie I've never seen, and this is probably the first time I've heard of it. Opened behind Ishtar. Opening weekend, Ishtar brought in 4,331,000. The Gate brought in 4,258,000. So it was really close there that weekend, right behind. But
trying to beat Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty. Oh God.
Yeah, how have I not heard of that film then? If it's a Dustin Hoffman film. But it was 5th overall for the month of May in 1987, with Beverly Hills Cop 2 topping the box office it was 20 million ahead of second place. So Ernest Goes to Camp was second place.
That's awesome.
Ernest Goes to Camp beat Ishtar by 200 million. But yeah, so
Wow.
we were threes on the it factor then. So our final, how entertained were you? Why don't you go ahead?
It's a cool movie. I'll recommend it to people. Not something I'm going to watch around like right again. It'd probably be a while before I do watch this again. But it's still cool. I think it's an 8. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. The effects and everything it did it for me. You know, even scenes like with like the moths attacking him, you can kind of tell there's like a bit of an overlay that he's trying to play into, but it still is cool. You know, there's a lot of fun little stuff in there. So I think it's something everyone should see. 8s. 8 on it.
Okay.
Don't hate, just an 8.
I was thoroughly impressed by this movie. I've heard of it recently, had not had it on the list until you brought it to the list. But I was excited to watch it, and I was not disappointed by this movie. And it's up there with, I mean, I'd probably watch this movie as frequently as I'd watch The Goonies, or I would watch any of those other, we've got critters coming up later. Like, you accurately lumped it in with those. Those movies would fall a little bit more fun category, but this is a legit kids horror movie. Like, it got intense for me as an adult watching it. Like, there's a point where you're like, oh, shit hits the fan, and it gets a little nuts. And I was there for it. I was on the edge. So I was impressed by that. I also, like, this is a great gateway film for kids who like to be scared. It's not overly gory or violent. There's not, boobs everywhere. This is genuinely a kids horror movie, and it's a good one. Like, it's effective for adults. It's probably terrifying for a 10-year-old.
God, yes, dude. Like one scene where the arms come out from under the bed. So always the monster in the bed. It was always a kid thing. So having those arms come out and trying to grab on Al and everybody, dude, of course that's going to rock some children's imaginations.
Yep.
Oh my God.
So I can't wait to show this to a kid one day and be like, okay, you want to watch scary movies. This is a great point to be like, are we ready to move past Goosebumps, the TV series, and test out the waters of some other movies? This is a good one that I also think the happy ending here is huge for that. The happy ending has a significant impact on how this movie is received. If everything ends, the house is destroyed, he lost his sister, his friend, and his dog, bleak and not really keeping that kid's feel. Because everything comes back, even the dog, because that all comes back, it's overcoming the demons. You can put the kid to sleep at night. Like, no, it's defeated. You don't have to worry about that. So I love that about this film. It is from a child's perspective and targeting children. And I think that makes it that much more enjoyable. For me, it's an 8. I also really enjoyed this film. I'm not going to watch it again immediately, but this movie is also atmospheric. It's got some great atmosphere to just put on in the background around Halloween time. It'd be great for that.
Agreed. I can get down with that.
So you have your total?
Yeah, I'm sitting at a 35 overall.
You're at 35. And I am surprised by this. You're at 35. I'm a 39.
Woo!
Yep. Divided by 2, that puts us at a 37, which 3.5 stars for now. But that's why we need the audience to chime in and score along with us and get your score in there at the end, and affects the average at the end of every episode. You can change that score by going along with us and scoring with us. But 37 puts it at 3.5, which means it's most likely a great movie, good movie. Misspoke. A good movie for a party or a social gathering. So the 35 is right on the line. If we had just just a couple more votes. 35 is the top of good. 36 is the bottom of great. So it's towing that line. It is towing that line. So
Yep.
final thoughts on it, Jonathan.
Oh, you Christian churches, get your little preteens together and have them sit down and watch this innocent film for Halloween.
Yes, and teach them the dangers of backmasking and metal music.
The Dark Book.
Yeah, I love all of that. So I kind of already gave my final thoughts that like this is just a great preteen gateway horror film, but it also is still a fun watch as an adult. It's a good time. It's a well-made movie. It's an extremely well-made movie, and it takes itself seriously and it pulls it off, and I appreciate it for that.
Sweet.
So we ready to read us out of here?
I suppose so. Let's do this.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Average Reviews. Thanks to everyone who joined us live. I saw Travis drop in there, our pal from the nightclub, and drop their scores in the chat. Your ratings help us. So like we were saying, get those scores so we can affect the average and change that average at the end of every episode.
Seriously, it's always awesome seeing how everyone's opinions come together, whether this movie unlocked your childhood fears or you were just here for the tiny demon chaos.
The Gate is one of those rare movies that manages to mix childhood wonder with actual terror and remind us that sometimes the scariest things are waiting just beneath the bed.
Yep. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram to grab a scorecard to keep the conversation going. And hey, if you like the vibe tonight, hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe even summon us back with a comment.
We'll be back next time with more reviews, more guests, and more average takes. And don't forget, like, comment, and survive. My new found footage horror novel drops next month. Pre-orders will be up soon.
This is the Average Reviews,
where the real review happens with your friends. See ya.
Bye.